All right, so in this video, I wanted to talk about whether or not you should panic if your short put or your short call gets early assigned or early exercised. So in the case, well, the short answer is you should not panic, and I'm going to explain why. So let's talk about the put first. So the short put, if you have a short put that gets assigned early, you should not panic, and here's why. First, let's review what the definition of a put option is. So the put option gives you the right to sell 100 shares at a particular price. Now, if you're selling the put option, that means you're at the opposite end of this definition, because this is the definition of someone who buys a put. If someone buys a put, they have the right to sell 100 shares at a particular price. So if you're on the receiving end of this, that means you're going to end up selling shares. You might be forced to sell. You might be forced to buy 100 shares because someone has the right to sell. That someone bought the put option. You sold that put option, so you're on the opposite end. So you might be forced to buy that person's 100 shares. So if your short put gets assigned early, so if you start off with a short put, let's say your trade is a naked put. Let's say stock is trading at 100, but you sold the 120 put, for example. So minus 120 means that you sold it, a short 120 put. So you're 20 points in the money, and let's say you'd end up getting assigned. That means you would end up with 100 shares times $120. So that's $12,000 that comes out of your account to own shares at $120 price. But now the current market price of the stock is $100. So you're already down $20 because you bought it. You were forced to buy it at 120, and the stock is currently trading now at 100. So you're down $20. So whether you didn't get assigned or whether you got assigned, you're in the same position. Your 120 put, when the stock was trading at 100, is already down more than $20. Now that you have the shares, you're also down $20. So it's the same. You're in the same situation whether you got assigned the shares or if you still hold the 120 put. Now, depending on what your action plan was or your management of the short put that's in the money, if your plan was to own shares at the end, well then nothing to worry about. You own the shares. But if your plan was to roll your put to collect the credit and to keep avoiding assignment, you could still roll. But now instead of now the definition of rolling is buying your 120 put that you already sold. So buying it back and then selling a new put, let's say the same put, but a different expiry, sorry. So that's the definition of rolling, is you buy back your existing put and then you sell a new put, different expiry. And you do that for a combined credit, net credit. But because now you don't have the put anymore, you have the shares, what you could do is the exact same thing, but instead of buying the put back, you're just selling the shares that you got instead of the put. Because remember that 120 put is equivalent to 100 shares. So you don't have it anymore to buy it back and roll. So just sell the shares and sell the new put. So here's what it would look like. You would sell your 100 shares that you got assigned, and then you would sell a new put, let's say the 120 put, but a new expiry, a further expiry, and you just make sure that you're collecting a credit. So you just have to make sure that the credit received from the new put, from the new 120 put, is actually higher than what you're going to lose by selling the shares, amount lost on selling the shares. Because for example, in this case, if I'm selling the shares for 100, if the stock's trading at 100 and I was forced to buy it at 120, that means I'm losing $20. So I have to make sure that my new credit is at least bigger than $20. So if the new 120 put, for example, gets me $21, then it is greater than that $20 that I'm going to lose by selling the shares. So that gives me a net credit of $1 to roll the put. That's if I don't want to have shares. So that's in the situation, in the scenario of a naked put. So here's what it would look like on Questrade. So let's just take the example of SPY. I'm just gonna bring up anything here. I'm just gonna do a custom order. So assuming you got assigned 100 shares and you want to roll it, you don't want to keep it, you want to roll it. So what you have to do is, because you have 100 shares, you want to close it. So that means you want to sell the shares. And let's say you had an in the money put. So let's say you had the 430 put, and let's say that the short put that you had initially was 435, and so you ended up buying SPY shares at 435, but right now it's trading at 423.63. So you're losing 435 minus 423.63. So you're losing about $12, about $11.45 or 35 cents. So you have to make sure that the new put that I'm going to sell, so let's say I want to sell the same strike, the new put that I'm going to sell, I need to collect more than $11 to make up for that loss. So let's say I go to July. So you can see I could roll right now to the July 16 435 put, and I would collect $14, but I am losing almost $12 by selling the shares. So my net credit in this case would be $2. So 14 from the put option, the new put option that I'm selling, minus $12 that I'm losing by selling the shares at 423, but shares that I bought that I got assigned at 435. So that's how you can roll a short put that got assigned early if you did not want to own shares. Now let's look at the example of a put credit spread. So if you have a put credit spread, now the definition of a put credit spread is one short put plus one long put. So I don't know, let's say stock is trading at is currently trading at 100, but you had the 125 put and the long 120 put. That was your put spread. But then the stock is trading at 100, so your short put got assigned early. So right now the current situation is, if you're assigned 100 shares at $125, you still own the 120 long put. So that 120 put is now worth, if the stock is trading at 100, that 120 put is trading for $20. You're losing about $25 on the shares because the market price for the shares is 100, but you bought it, you were assigned at 125. So you're down $25. But you have that long put that you can sell. So if you sell that long put for $20 and you sell your shares at the current market price, you lose $25 here, you make $20 here, your net loss is $5. So, which makes sense because you initially had a put credit spread, and a put credit spread has max loss. Your loss is capped by the width of the spread minus the credit received. So the width of the spread here is 5 points. So it makes sense that your max loss would be $5. So even if you got assigned early on your short put, there's nothing to worry about. As long as you still own the long put, then you can sell it at the same time. So what you would do is sell 100 shares plus sell your long 120 put, and that should give you a net loss of $5. So it's in the same. It's the same situation. The only problem is with Questrade, you'll end up paying $25 assignment fees. So that's what sucks. But the other thing you could do is, because you have the long 120 put, now you're an option buyer. So you actually have the right to sell your 100 shares at a particular price. So that price being your strike. So because you have 120. Even if you were assigned shares at 125, you're allowed to sell it at 120. So that's your protection. So that your loss would be the difference, 125 minus 120. So that's how a put credit spread works. So really nothing to nothing. You don't need to panic as long as you still have the long put, which is part of the put spread. Now with Questrade, you don't have to go assign it or exercise your put option that you bought. You could just sell it on the market, because if you go exercise it, you're gonna have to pay another $25. You already paid $25 when you got assigned the 125. So how do you know if you will get assigned early? So usually it happens in the last week of expiry, and your put option has to be deep in the money. So it has to have no more extrinsic value, and it's all intrinsic value. So if we let's look at this 435 put option here. You can see it's trading for about $14. The stock is trading at 423. So let's look at the difference. So it's how in the money is it? So 435 strike minus 423.67. So that means I'm $11.33 in the money. Yet the put option is trading for $14. So that means if I deduct 14, so that means there's $2.67 of time value, of extrinsic value. So because there's still time value in the put option, then it's not going to get assigned early, even if I am in the money by 11 points. Let's look at an example of a put option that I have. I have this Spotify put option here. I've got the 250 put. I'm short the 250 put, -1 here. I'm short the 250 put, which is, if we look at the current market price, Spotify is at 243. So I'm 7 points in the money. So if I'm 7 points in the money, so my put option should be worth $7, but it's not. It's worth $12. That means it has extrinsic value. It's got $5 of extrinsic value. 12 minus 7. 12 minus 7 is 5. So it's got $5 of extrinsic value. So because I still have extrinsic value in my put option, I don't have to worry about getting assigned early. And the reason why I have extrinsic value in the put option is because I still have time in the trade. I've got 36 days to go on the trade. So that's why I'm not worried about getting assigned early, even if I am in the money, even if my put option is in the money. So as soon as you see that there's no more extrinsic value left in your put option, then you should take action if you want to avoid early assignment. Now let's look at the example of a short call. So first of all, let's review the definition of a call. So a call gives you the right to buy 100 shares at a particular price, which is your strike price, at a particular price. So that's the definition of a call. It's the right to buy 100 shares. So if you sell a call, you're at the opposite end. So if someone has the right to buy 100 shares from you, that means you're going to end up selling shares to them. So you might be forced to sell 100 shares to someone if you get exercised early on your short call. Now, what are some trades that have a short call? You've got the covered call that has a short call element, and a call credit spread. A call spread has a short call in it. So let's look at the covered call first. So the covered call is a combination of 100 shares that you buy and you sell a call at a particular strike. So let's look at an example where, I don't know, let's say the stock is trading at 100, or let's say the stock is trading at 120, but you sold the 100 call. You sold that call. So right now your call is in the money. So if your short call gets assigned early, what's going to happen is, because you own shares, you're just going to end up losing your shares. Your shares will get sold at the 100 strike. So that's why it's called a covered call, because your call is protected by the shares. So that's not a problem. As long as you're okay losing your shares at a $100 price, then there's really no risk to a covered call getting assigned early. Except with Questrade, you get the $25 assignment fee. Now, in the case of a call spread, which is a short call, so short call, a combination of a short call and a long call. So let's take an example where the stock is trading, I don't know, at 140, but you had sold, let's say, the 120 call. You had sold the 120 call and bought the 125 call. So that's a call spread. So right now your 120 call is in the money because the stock is trading at 140. So there's a chance that you get assigned or exercised early on the 120 call. So if that happens, what's going to end up happening is, because you don't have shares, this is a call spread, it's not a covered call. So you don't own shares. What's going to happen is that you have to sell shares to that person who is exercising their long call. So you're going to end up with negative 100 shares in your account. So that's like shorting. So you're basically shorting that stock because you have negative 100 shares in your account, but you still have that 125 call in your account. So if the stock's trading at 140 and you end up being forced to sell 100 shares at 120, so you're short shares at 120, but the stock is trading at 140. So you're currently sitting at a loss of $20 per share, because the current market price is 140 and you're shorting shares at 120. So if you're short 100 shares, you need to buy it back to close the trade. So you're buying it back at the current market price of 140, but you got 120. So you're sitting at a loss of 20. When you end up with negative 100 shares, it also comes with the money for these shares, because you're selling 100 shares at 120. So your account will show negative 100 shares, but it will also show 120 times 100 in cash. So it's going to show $12,000 that gets deposited in your cash, because you basically sold 100 shares for $120. That's what this means. So you'll get $12,000 in your account, but you have to pay $14,000, so 140 times 100, to close your shares. So that's where that $20 loss per share will come in. So $2,000 loss. But you have that long call. If the stock is trading at 140, that long 125 call is trading for 140 minus 125. It is trading for $15. So you've got a long call that's worth $15, and you've got short shares that if you close you will lose $20. So combined, you only end up losing $5. So 20 minus 15 gives you that $5 loss. So once again, in the case of a spread, as long as you have your long leg, your long option, whether it's a put or a call, your max loss is the same whether you got assigned or exercised early. And all you have to do now is buy back the 100 shares that you're short with the cash that was deposited in your account, and at the same time sell your long call. That combination will give you that max loss that you had initially when you opened your call spread. So let's say your short call was, I don't know, like 220. And you were short shares. So the transaction to close the trade is to buy back your 100 shares and then sell your long call and the combination gives you that long call that you sell will make up for the loss between your shares and the current market price. So if you've got negative 100 shares in your account, part of a call spread that got exercised early, all you have to do is buy back the 100 shares and sell the long call in one trade, and it will give you that max loss that was part of the initial call spread. Now, when does a short call get exercised early? So once again, it has to be in the money. It could still have extrinsic value. So it's a little bit tricky with a short call. Usually a short call will get assigned early. Here, let's look at an example. Let's look at, let's look at June 16 expiry. And let's look at an in the money call. So let's look at, the SPY is at 423. So let's look at the 400 strike. All right, so you can see that this call here is trading for 23.43 and at the 400 strike. But what you have to look at is not the value of the call, but you have to look at the value of the put. So the value of the corresponding put at the same strike is 13 cents. And you have to compare it to the dividend amount. So the dividend amount, if we go look up SPY has a dividend of $1.27, but the ex-dividend date is March 19. If I go back to the option chain, so $1.27 and March 19 ex-dividend date. So let me just go back to my option chain. Let's look at the 400 strike. 400 strike is over here. June 16. All right, 400 strike. So if the corresponding put, the value of the corresponding put is less than the dividend amount and ex-dividend date is before the expiry, then there's a good chance that your short call will get exercised early. So in this case, the put is less than the dividend because the dividend is $1.27 and the put is 13 cents. But ex-dividend date is March 19th. It's not before the expiry. The expiry of this option is June 16th. But if ex-dividend date was before June 16 and the value of the put option is worth less than the dividend amount that's going to be paid on ex-dividend, then there's a very good chance that your short call will get exercised early because the person who bought the call would rather get the dividend and then will protect themselves by buying the put, which is less than the dividend. So they have no loss. It's almost a guaranteed profit for them, which is the dividend minus what they paid for the put. So that's how you know if your short call will get exercised early. Now, the worst part about if it's part of a covered call, it's not a big deal. You lose your shares at that strike price. But if it's a call spread, the problem is if it's a call spread, you're going to end up paying the dividend. So if your short call gets assigned, you're going to end up, not only will you end up with negative 100 shares in your account that you have to buy back, but you're going to end up paying the dividend on those 100 shares. So whatever that dividend is, dollar amount times 100, you're going to end up paying that dividend. It's going to come out of your account if your short call gets exercised early because of X dividend. So yeah, you shouldn't panic if you ever get assigned early on the put or exercised early on the call, as long as you understand the definition of options and you know if it's part of a spread, then you have that long option for protection. If it's part of a covered call, then you have the shares for protection. But then if you're trading naked, then you already understand the risk with selling naked options, and you can either roll for more credit and wait for the trade to go your way, or just take the loss. But whether you get assigned early or not, it does not change your P&L. All right, so if you have any questions, leave in the comment section below. Like always, if you're going to open an account with Questrade to trade on the stock market, use my referral link below to get $50 in free commissions. Also, check out the other referral links below. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.